And we are starting. We are now at the 4th day of the Team Coaching Global Summit, and this is our second session for today. And this is all about supporting communities through team coaching with Dr. Zeina Ghossoub and Roula Saba from Lebanon. This is Katerina Kanelidou and Whitney Luther from the Team Coaching Global Alliance hosting this session. Feel free to say hi in the chat and where you are joining us from. We are going to have in this session 60 minutes together. Please keep your microphone on mute to avoid distractions. And our presenters have prepared for us a lot of content and a lot of useful content, especially during this time. So let's introduce them. We have Dr. Zeina Ghossoub. She is an internationally recognized master certified coach, transformational leadership expert, and wellness pioneer, passionate about blending science, leadership, and well-being. With a Ph.D. in human behavior and counseling, she empowers leaders and organizations to cultivate resilience, emotional intelligence, and lasting growth. She's founder of multiple coaching academies and a published author, and frequently speaks at global platforms inspiring positive change and building thriving, purpose-driven communities. And if you want to message her in WhatsApp, you know that she will answer before you start, you finish typing. We also have Roula Saba. She is an MCC executive and leadership coach with over 15 years of experience in the field. She works with managers and executives on leadership skills, effective communication, emotional intelligence, and mindset, among other subjects. Her clients come from Lebanon and the MENA region, and in sectors ranging for FMCG, banking, insurance, luxury goods, engineering, and industrial production. And somehow, among all these things, she still finds herself on the receiving end on Zeina's really early WhatsApp messages. So that's another thing that unites them. I was excited about that. I know from experience how important it is, team coaching in supporting communities beyond and bringing to the world beyond the corporate world, especially in the times that we are living right now. And who are better than that two of our distinguished colleagues from Lebanon. If someone knows well about resilience and supporting communities, it's our colleagues from Lebanon. So we are very happy to have them with us. And as you say hello also, there is another question, why did you join this specific session? What brings you to this specific session? You can also put that in the chat. And with that, I leave the stage to Zeina and Roula.
Thank you, Katerina, and thank you, Whitney, and the TCGA team for bringing this event together. Our agenda today, today's sessions will go beyond the workplace. While many of us are familiar with team coaching in the corporate or organizational settings, this session will ask us to imagine something very different and more expansive. What happens when we take the same coaching mindset, like listening, shared purpose, collective problem solving, and apply that to our neighborhood volunteer group, grassroots organizations, civic organizations, or even parents' organizations. So together, we're going today to really uncover and explore how coaching can be a powerful tool for nurturing the change in these organizations. And to start, we're going to move further to, So I'd like to invite you to carry with you throughout this session this question. So how can the principles that make teams thrive also strengthen the communities? So if you think of a team that you were engaged with and you were coaching, what was it that made them successful? Was it clarity? Was it trust? Was it accountability? Or a combination of all of these? Now, if we imagine that we are applying all those principles to the same, to the those same elements to the organizations and communities, how can we deploy all of that in those communities? So as we move along, we just keep this question so that it will be a reference for us in terms of grounding us, for us to look at the differences and the commonalities in these perspectives. So let's start with a definition. The traditional team coaching happens normally within an organization where team roles are really defined, where goals are defined, and there is a certain structure. Whereas in community-focused team coaching, we can adopt all those same principles, but in a non-hierarchical fashion, because there are no, specific roles for each one, or there is no hierarchy in those teams. They are coming together, joining together to build something and to achieve a certain goal. So there is no hierarchy. There is no remuneration most of the time. They are working on civic, social, or grassroots goals. So it is voluntary, it is diverse, and it is complex, where we can unite many people, many stakeholders together for a shared cause. So you can have maybe a business owner and a student and parents join together for a specific cause. So there is this variety and non-hierarchy in that. So there is some complexity in terms of decision-making, finalizing that, the different perspectives that they bring in. So in that way, looking at that, we might have some shared principles that apply from team coaching to communities, and shared challenges maybe. And then we will look later at the challenges that are distinctive from organizations. So many of the foundational, as we said, many of the foundational concepts in team coaching translate beautifully to community settings. So system thinking, where we see the whole system, not individual parts, is really an important part of the process. Whether it's between, in companies, it's between departments, or it's between local businesses and residents. Looking at the whole system as a holistic entity applies to both. Collective intelligence, where we harness the diverse voices and experiences. And this is very important in communities because you have a huge diversity. Many individuals from different walks of life are involved in that community. So harnessing that is also important. They're all aligning around a shared purpose. Same as with organizations. In communities, they have a common purpose there and common values that they're, striving towards. So this is also something in common between organizations, coaching, and communities. Plus, ensuring that there is psychological safety, encouraging openness, communication without fear, without repercussions, is something that we as coaches need to ensure that it exists, whether in organizational coaching or in communities. Also add to that the action learning, so reflecting, experimenting on what is it that they'd like to achieve, the feedback loop to promote iterative growth and responsiveness. So these are all common points that can apply between, executives or team coaching at an organization and communities team coaching. Looking also at the challenges, the shared challenges that we might have in both contexts. So whether it's a corporate team or a grassroots community group, certain challenges will come up again and again. Miscommunication it can derail the productivity. It can really derail also trust between people. working in silos can also add to the miscommunication that exists. And in communities, because people are coming from different walks of life, there are these silos, there are these miscommunication de facto. So these are common challenges. Conflicting agendas and unclear roles. More so in communities, there are unclear roles. It's a non-hierarchical. Some people may take action or may take responsibilities for certain items, but other people, can come ad hoc and then add to the team and work with the team for a period and then go back, because they are busy and not available all the time. So it's not a set system that we're working with. There are people who are coming in and going, moving away, depending on their agendas, depending on their commitment. So there are unclear roles. And this is where we need to pay attention, to pay more attention in terms of coaching the team. And we will see some tools that will allow us to identify and map those responsibilities and those people involved. Decision-making gridlock, whether it is in business, in organizations or in grassroots communities, we might face all those decision-making gridlocks. People who are more vocal, especially if it's non-hierarchical, people that are more vocal might impose, their opinion more so than in organizations. There is no hierarchy. There is nothing to prevent them from doing that. So as coaches, we need to pay attention to that. So accountability gaps. Who is accountable for what? Sometimes there is no clear definition of the role. So where does the accountability go? And then we need to pay attention to moving and keeping the motivation of the people. There might be lots of motivation as we move throughout the process. People have, diverse responsibilities, have other commitments, and might really put a lot of energy outside of that community. And then they find themselves, with barely enough energy to continue with that, due to the responsibilities that they have outside of that community. So it does not mean that they're not motivated to do it, but there are different calls on their attention that are more important to them, to their survival, than that. So we need to be also aware of that motivation and trying to keep the energy going over time. So these are shared challenges with more complexity in terms of the communities, because there is no set system or no clear indications as to how to move.
And Roula, let's tell everyone that if they have any questions,
yes, sure, please
put them in the chat box, and we can just answer them.
Definitely. So please feel free to ask the questions, and then Whitney will share those questions with us as they come in. Okay? Thank you. So time for reflection for yourself, to reflect about, a community group you have been part of. So maybe it's a neighborhood community, or a parent group at school, or even an informal initiative with friends or volunteers. I'd like you to reflect and ask yourself, what were the dynamics like in that group? What made things work, and what made things fall apart, if any? And as you're looking back, which of the principles that we just discussed, so systems thinking, psychological safety, feedback loops, all of that, what one principle or more might have made that experience more effective and fulfilling for everyone involved? So I'd like you to reflect for a few minutes on that. And if you can put your responses in the chat, and then we'll read some of them. In the chat. So yes, a shared purpose and alignment in the goal, transparency. Made it work. What made it work was the shared purpose, the common values, definitely. A sufficient number of people who were listening to understand. Dominating personalities tend to silence the diverse thinking. Excellent, definitely. Clarity in purpose. Not sure what they are to do. I did not understand. Shared and clear purpose made it work. Definitely. So when we have a clear purpose, a shared purpose, it's very important. Communication, when communication is also important. When there are, people who are overwhelming in their communication and they're imposing their ideas, that might derail the system. Emotional and low educational members, oops, I missed that. It's jumping. Emotional and low educational members in the community team, definitely. Coaching the people as a team rather than individuals, and that's what we are there to do as team coaches. Improvement would be clarifying what has been said and what has been heard and exploring. Oops. Okay, everything is jumping, so I'm sorry about that. So yes, there are. Sorry, yeah. Can you continue?
There is a question, Roula. Do you want to take it now?
Yes, please. I can. Yeah. What's the question?
It's from Cheryl. The lack of commitment from members, be it within a team or community, would make any coaching engagement difficult to move along because it's about enabling the self-system. And a small group of unmotivated people affects the collective systemic motivation. How do you get through that?
We're going to address that.
Sorry? You will address it?
No, we're going to address it in later on in the session.
In the session. So we'll wait for Zeina's part and then we'll continue with that. Is there any other question?
No, there are many replies to your questions.
Okay, thank you so much for the replies and for your contributions. But let's continue for the sake of time. So, having looked at, the commonalities in challenges and in positive things, and then the different challenges that we might face, let's look at the difference between a traditional team coaching, which is in an organization, and a community team coaching. What are the core differences? So as we said, there is a hierarchy in a traditional team coaching. In an organization, we have clear reporting structures. Whereas in a community, it's a voluntary participation. There is no formal authority. So this first, creates there should be a democracy, hearing everybody, versus, in terms of decision, there might be a delay in decision making. Second one is compensation. In companies, people are paid to do their work. Whereas in communities, it is an intrinsic motivation that is bringing people together. They chose to engage in that. Okay? In terms of time commitment, at work, we have defined work hours, and that's it, and we finish. In communities, it's a flexible engagement. We cannot impose on anybody time to focus on that community. It's varying according to the availability of the person, of their presence, of their conflicting responsibilities. Same here. We have shared metrics. We have organizational KPIs. People are measured against getting those KPIs. In communities, there's a multiple definition of impact. Maybe for the youth, the impact might be different, or the positive impact might be different as a definition than for business owners in that community, than for parents. So each one has a different success measure, and we need to hear all the voices of that system and to align into identifying was there a success or not. So it's not only on measures and measurable items, it's on also storytelling. Whatever they feel has been a measurable success. In companies, there is a job description, there are roles definition, there are contracts by which they abide. Whereas in communities, it's an informal agreement. It is flexible, it evolves, the commitment evolves depending on the responsibilities outside of that community that the person has. So there's nothing really standardized in that way, and it's all voluntary. So this adds to the complexity of the team coaching. So if you're going to look at the challenges, so there would be many challenges, as we said, because there is no structure or no formal structure, there might be challenges that we as team coaches face for grounding that team in communities. So I talk about the first challenge, and then I leave it to Zeina to continue with the other challenges. The first challenge might be the stakeholder complexity. So a defined, it's not a defined team like in an organization. A community might include a mosaic of people and stakeholders. Some can be visible and we know about them because they are included in that team, and others are invisible, but they are at the effect of that. So you may have a council member and a teenager and a small business owner and parents in the same team, okay, at the same table, representing different voices. Each one has his priorities. Each one has his agenda, or the agenda of the team they're representing. One person may be speaking on behalf of the whole group that they represent, so the business owners in that community or the youth in that community. But sometimes it's not necessarily with their consent or with their approval, so they're speaking on their behalf. So therein lies also the complexity, having alignment with them within that small group for them to be able to move forward. So coaching in this environment means mapping those relationships and understanding the different interactions within that team, and intentionally including those who are not there, not at the table, because it's a community. We need to include everybody. So a tool that can be used here very easily to map those is the stakeholders map. So it helps, the stakeholder maps helps you visualize who is involved in that community or in that project, who holds influence, and where the gaps and tensions lie in the communication, in the contributions, and so on. So an example, I'll put an example of a stakeholder map. Let's say we have a community purpose. We're going to achieve a certain goal for the community. We draw a circle in the middle, which is what we're going to work on. And then we identify all the relevant players that might influence or affect that initiative. It can be the residents, the funders, the youth, the local government, local business, and many, many, many more. We identify them. We add those stakeholders around the center. And then the way we add them, we use it, if the circle is more at proximity to the center, it might mean it has more influence or more representational members. And the furthest away from it, it might mean that they are, they have less influence or less representation at the table. And this will help, visualize who is missing or what influence is missing or the number of people that need to be available for making an impact. So for that example, if it was a youth center initiative, the youth were furthest from the center, despite them being the most affected by that initiative. So when they drew that, they realized that they were the furthest away. They did something to just include them more. So they increased the representation of the youth, and they increased their voice in the system. So by just drawing that and asking specific questions, so who is the closest to the center, who is missing, which relationships need strengthening, and so on, it makes it, it makes a visual impact, and people can notice what changes can be done for that. So it's a very simplistic model that allows all the voices and potentially those who are not existent yet, and then they need to be part of that community program, to be included in that. So that's one of the tools that you can utilize in identifying the different members that are contributing. I will leave it to Zeina to continue with, unless there are questions. First.
There are, oh yes. So let me take it from here, because
Okay.
I am, the chat box is on fire.
Okay.
And we have so many questions and so many things to address and so little time. Can I just share my screen? So,
yes. Go ahead.
So I think we have so much information for you today, but I really would not want to pursue this without actually addressing some of the questions, because some of the questions can be addressed at this level. So would you like me to just at least continue to finalize the challenges at least, and then move forward with your questions? How about that?
Yeah, I think it's better that you continue with what you have prepared and see what questions are going to be answered.
Yes, just having a small technical problem. 1 second. Yeah, because we need to address the challenges first. And then I think some of the questions will be addressed when we go through the challenges. Okay, I don't know what happened to my screen.
Do you want me to share the slides and you just let me know how to move them forward?
Yeah, something happened with my...
Okay.
Okay,
I can share the slides.
Okay, you can go ahead and share the slides.
Okay, so you will just guide me and tell me when to go next.
All right, I will. So the second challenge, what we're looking at here is sustaining momentum. We have life events happening. We have, and this definitely in any community coaching engagement is going to impact participation. We also have seasonal patterns that are going to affect engagement. There are certain things happening in life. We cannot rely here on job descriptions. We cannot rely on salaries to ensure participation. For example, a parent may stop attending due to a sick child, or a key leader may move away. So it is important to look at those individual things that will help the sustaining momentum. And one point here always we need to look at is, in community team coaching, there's always an element of volunteer leadership. And that is also a big situation where it will affect us as when we are working as team coaches. It will affect the whole environment, and it can cause burnout. So, and burnout also can actually come from past failed initiatives. There's also what we call as when there is leadership turnover, there's lost knowledge. And in such cases specifically, you have a lot of turnover because of the monetary problems that they face. So And definitely we look at resource scarcity in these community team coaching engagements. Usually, to coach for sustainability, we build redundancy, we document progress, we anticipate what's ebbing, what's flowing. And we look at mentorship, and simple knowledge of transfer systems here are very essential to long-term success. So the challenges in sustaining the momentum here is in traditional teams, we often have a single leader. We have this clear hierarchy. In community work, there is usually one passionate volunteer usually burns out, or they move away, or the entire initiative will collapse overnight if there is no sustainability in that. And some questions here to use and to reflect on are what are the absolute minimum activities that are actually needed to keep this initiative alive? And how can we design our work so it doesn't collapse when people get busy? So anything that will help us keep this momentum going on is usually a plus. Can we change? The third challenge is actually the measuring really what matters. And in here, we're talking more about measuring change in a community becomes really more nuanced than looking at the KPIs. We look at if the group creates safety, more safety. Did the residents just feel this psychological safety also? They both matter, but they require different ways of measuring and incorporating sometimes storytelling alongside the process will help us track more progress, more meaning, especially when we are working with groups that really have different definitions of success. So it is really hard to attribute change to only one effort or look at long timelines for visible results. And there's always a tension between story and data. And sometimes one group's success may be another's failure. So really it has to be very individualized. One of the ways to do that is we build in regular reflection sessions, and we try to notice unexpected changes. We have baseline measurements before we start the work, and always celebrating the wins, and even the smallest of wins, and the incremental progress rather than waiting for major breakthroughs. Especially is in these situations we are addressing very big issues, like I think one of the questions today was looking at the political situation that's happening in the Middle East. We cannot look at it as a whole thing. We have to really break it down and celebrate our wins. The challenge 4, please. Okay. So in the fourth challenge here, we are really, it's very important that we address culture, history, and power. So all communities come with history, and some of them are really very painful. And maybe I'm going to take a very, very light example here. like a school initiative, like a school initiative failed in the past. Maybe this will create distrust due to political divisions. As coaches, we really need to understand the context very deeply. And we really have to honor those cultural norms. So we address those traumas, we address those broken promises, we address the class, the ethnicity, the generational divides, which we are seeing so much of now in all the workplace and the community team coaching environments, and hold that space for tough conversations. So building trust then becomes what is the most important thing. And having this cultural competency is a non-negotiable when working at that community level. And in that, we are able to gauge political tensions and geographic boundaries. And a tool here that we try to use is the trust matrix in the next slide. It's a very, very, very simple tool, and I hope it addresses a bit of your questions. And if you take a look at it, you will see that we have the x-axis where it's about the trust you are giving. The y-axis is about the trust you are receiving. And if we want to look at this matrix to assess how much trust you give to others and how much trust you feel from them, what we do is actually we let the group plot. They plot each relationship or each group. And as you can see, in the lower quadrant, we have weak trust and cautious trust. And in the upper ones, we have high distrust and strong trust. So what quadrant will hold the most relationships when we are doing this kind of work is what the team coach then will have an idea on how to continue the conversation. Example, if the highest quadrant for receiving trust is a weak trust, the next coaching question would be, what could shift to move, what shift could we do to move more relationships to a high trust? I hope this makes sense. The fifth challenge is, we need to go to the fifth challenge, yes. Making the decisions together. Like in any team coaching engagement, in a company, decisions are usually often made by the leaders with formal authority. In communities, power is really more informal and often more emotional. So one strong voice can stop progress. It can or decrease progress. So it's important to offer a range of decision-making methods, from consent to voting to delegation, and really ensure the group understands who decides what and how the information is going to flow between meetings, between stakeholders, between institutions. So the informal power structures, and when we are looking at the deeper issues, we have communities that develop shadow hierarchies that are based on factors like founding member status, like time available, like expertise, like communication style, or external connections. And these informal power structures can either complement or conflict with stated democratic processes. And what this manifests on a long-term basis is whose opinions carry actually the disproportionate weight. So we look at the time-consuming consensus, we look at the veto power from vocal individuals, we look at the need for external approval, we look at disjointed communication channels. Some coaching strategies here would be the mapping exercise, the power mapping exercise. So we can create visual maps of both the formal and the informal influence networks. Who has the decision-making authority on paper? Who actually influences the decisions in practice? What are the sources of informal power? And where do the informal and formal structures align or conflict? And we map and we continue the coaching. I think I will take a minute here, and before I go into the case study, and try and start to address some questions before we move forward. What do you say, Roula?
Sure. I was muted.
Because I think there are a lot of questions here. Katarina, we cannot hear you.
They definitely are. So Whitney, which question should we take?
Let's go to Judy. Judy asked, in regards to commitment and motivation. Oh, that's not a question. I apologize, Judy. Let's go to Craig. He asked, in my experience, those who speak most tend to be those who are willing to take responsibility on next steps, while those who are quiet can be more reluctant. How do you balance the two?
By giving the voice for everyone. You have to give the voice. Even if the person is not being vocal or being excited or passionate about something, doesn't really mean that they are going to move forward with it. We actually try to give voice for everyone on the team to see who is willing. Remember that our team is one system, and this is what we're working with, and we need to get them engaged, the people that are reluctant and the people that are not reluctant. So we have to get this agreement going on for them to move forward. And as I said, most community team coaching is volunteer work. So, and there's no money involved, and it becomes even harder. So usually, one of the basic things that we really work on is connecting them to the why they're there in the first place. What's their intrinsic motivation to be in that community? That is what's important. I hope I addressed that question. Roula, the next question is yours.
Yeah, there's another question from Christos.
May I just jump in here? It is a why, and it's the practical experience, because it was mentioned also about the why and the values, because the values in the how. It was to decode and interpret the values exactly. So yeah, we say it's value, but what does it mean in how we work together, how we make decisions? And also, I'm going to connect that with previous sessions, because you remember what Gillian said at the beginning about creativity. right before we had a session with the matrix from Paul Barbour about the known and unknown and unvoiced, known and voiced, etc. That was for the needs for disability, but this can be also adjusted. So the idea was like, okay, no, maybe we can adjust it and ask this question about our commitment. What is not known to the others, and we need to voice that will enable our commitment. Just ideas. Sorry to jump.
Absolutely.
Along that similar vein, Christos asked a question. He says, a somehow sensitive question, how can we navigate factors external to the system or community? For example, part of the wider system, like political developments and different positions people have. Considering what's happening in Palestine and the Middle East, this period has rippled that touch almost every community or organization.
Oh. Yeah, that's a sensitive issue, but it has to be voiced, within the system. We need to listen to the voice. We need to acknowledge its existence, because if we ignore that, the elephant in the room, then there is no movement. So we need to acknowledge that. We need to navigate, it doesn't need to impact the community. So what is existent from the outside is acknowledged, but connecting to the purpose of that community, purpose of that, what brought us together is what is the most important thing. So we always connect to why we are there, irrespective of the circumstances that are going around us. So I hope this answers your question. We address it, but it's not, yeah.
I'm going to add on to that. And as Katarina said at the beginning of this session, that who else than Lebanese to guide this conversation today? There is an element of resilience that needs to be there in those communities. And when I say resilience, we talk about resilience. It's like, it is the thing nowadays. But we really address the resilience of the community we are in. We really see where they are. We address where they are. Are they burnt out? Are they not burnt out? Who is supporting us? Who is not support? We have to look at all of these parameters, and we look for who is going to support us. We have done that as communities in Lebanon forever, in all of the wars, and this is what we look at. What do we have? What can we control? What do we have influence on as a community? And the team coach will actually lead the discussion on that. But we have to see everyone, where everyone is first, and look at those things. I hope I answered you, Christos.
A meaningful question.
And Roula answered you.
Well, do we have time for another question, or do you want to move to your case study?
The case study needs 8 minutes, and then I have to close. But I really would like for people to discuss the case study, yes, if that is possible.
Yes. If you have more questions, please continue to put them in the chat, and we'll continue the conversation on LinkedIn. So thank you.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so you would like to have the breakout room starting now after we show the case study?
Yeah, we will show the case study and then we will do the breakout rooms.
Okay, it's going to be less than 8 minutes.
Let's do it 6 minutes. 6 minutes is fine. 5 minutes.
Okay, 6 minutes. And let me share the case study. Sorry, I lost the share. Okay, there it is. There it is.
Yeah. So we gave you a case here where we have this neighborhood group where it forms a chaotic neighborhood group, and this neighborhood group forms to address safety. It includes long-time residents, it includes newcomers, it includes seniors and business owners. The meetings are usually very chaotic with competing ideas and clashing communicating styles. So how would you apply team coaching principles to support this group?
Okay, so let me open now the breakout rooms, and we'll see you all in 6 minutes. I've paused the recording. Okay.
So we have a lot of questions that need to address. Can we address them on the LinkedIn later on?
Yeah, that's what we put on the chat, that we put the link to the LinkedIn post, and they can link them there. Okay, so let's remove. Okay, there are some problems.
How much time do we still have, Katarina?
A little. Okay, so this is the problem with the rooms, that some people do not have, they just leave. They don't want to be engaged in rooms. So
Okay.
that's the problem. When you hear breakout rooms, they just drop.
They drop out?
Yes.
Mm.
So I made some adjustments, because in some there was just one person.
Wow.
This is the issue. Like this is why I said, like, maybe avoid that.
Yeah, they don't want to have discussions then.
It's because, like in our, so there is the WebEx that created the famous sound, right? And there they're used that they are only presentations. So they are not expected to be engaged in conversations. So they just go, they put that in the background, or they say, yeah, I will just notice, and they will do other things. Those who are engaged in conversation, they are in the groups, in the breakout rooms.
I have found too, the timing of a breakout group also is important. If you put it at the end, people will go ahead and sign off. Whereas if you put it maybe towards the beginning, sometimes they'll be willing to stay. That you also get a lot of drop-offs though in the beginning too.
Yeah, and you have to explain some material before you do that.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you going to do a breakout unless you're asking for a poll or something?
Hey, Brian, what happened? Let me.
I don't know. I got 2 pictures, but nobody speaking.
Oh, yeah, okay. We have how many? We have 3 minutes left. Do you want me to put you in another group, in another room?
Sure.
Okay, let me, Brian, I will put you in room 1. Okay. And
I'm imagining if our local government all had coaches within their teams, wouldn't that be transformative?
All governments in all the world.
No. So actually, here's the thing. There is a book, I have a book also, Coaching Politicians, because there was a German actually coach who was doing that. She was in Brussels and she was coaching politicians. We invited her to present in a session on the community of practice and team and group coaching. Before, she was very reluctant, and she said to me that after so many years, she was she has become so disillusioned about that. She says there is no point. There is no point of working with politicians. There is no point to try to do anything, to try to change anything.
I have worked with politicians also, Katarina, in Lebanon for a very long time, a couple of ministers and a couple of deputies, and I just dropped it off. Like
Yeah.
about 10 years or 15 years ago. It is not, there's no use.
Yeah.
At all. They don't listen at all. They don't want to change. But maybe a team coaching approach.
No,
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Especially the team, because it will mean that they will have to come together transparently and like, but it's all agendas, it's all under the table. So one-on-one is easier, but
Believe me, it isn't.
no,
Not with politicians.
yeah.
Maybe that should be a question. Are you striving to be a politician? No, thanks.
Before we coach.
Okay. So we have a few seconds left.
I think what we're gonna do is they come back with their reflections and then we close.
We have very like minutes left.
I cannot continue the other part.
Do you want me to share the last slides?
Let me see which slide. Wait.
It's tools that support community coaching. Your coaching.
Yeah, I will just look at
core insights from today.
Yeah. Oh, insights.
Insights.
Yeah.
Your core insights from today.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. Okay. Okay, 6 seconds left, and then people will join us. Okay, I'm closing the rooms. Close the rooms. Rooms are closed. And in 15 seconds, everyone will be on again, and I will continue. Oh, I thought I had paused the recording. No. Okay, we will edit it later. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. We lost a few. Why? I don't know why when people hear breakout rooms, some get lost in the way. But we are happy. And as my colleague and friend 𝗪𝗵𝗁 says, oh, look, they are back.
Back.
So that's a favorite phrase from 𝗪𝗁𝗁. When people return from the breakout room, says, "Oh, they're back. They haven't left." Okay, so
yeah, they're back. What reflections do you have for us before we give you a bit of in 1 minute some core insights? Just if you would like to share. No reflections.
In our group, I'm sorry, I will share. In our group, we talked about making sure that everybody had a voice. And so possibly breaking them into smaller groups, similar to what you did in this situation, so that the people that had less quote unquote power felt more comfortable, and then identifying somebody that would be the spokesperson so their ideas were heard.
Beautiful. Thank you. One more.
We have Crystal.
Couple more.
Yeah, from our group, we talked a bit about the definition of safety and how probably different groups, different parts of the community will have different understanding and different interests in safety. So breaking this down with consultations and discussions, understanding privilege or lack of privilege, because that's something that plays a role when it comes to safety in a community. So lots of preparatory work, I think, with the community groups.
A lot of prep work and a lot of tools at hand is always a good thing.
We started out with a foundation of something like a code of conduct. So there's a common agreement on how we're going to respect and communicate with each other. We also spoke about breaking into small groups so that they could bring back, critical things that they identified. So we're seeing the greater voice. And we also looked at something like a purpose-driven structure to create safety and to stay on target. So something like, what is this situation? What do we know about it? What can we do about it? And what will we do about it? And that brought in the accountability piece that you spoke about, Zeina. So those are sort of high-level things. There was more, but I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Now, we ran out of time. We have seconds left, and we would love to continue the conversation on LinkedIn. So you have the link on the post. Please keep the conversation going. It is a very important topic. We want to thank you very much, Zeina and Roula, for being with us for the preparation and on this super important topic. And we need to have more of this conversation, and we need to be better prepared and better equipped to do this kind of work as coaches and team coach specifically. Big thank you also to Whitney for her co-hosting super skills, and also a huge appreciation to all of you for being with us today. Looking forward to see you in tomorrow, and we have Neil. The first session will be with Neil Scotton, who was here today. Maybe he will share a tool that could be useful in this kind of work. See you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.